Welcome to Resort Trades Learning Center. Now, if you're interested in how to include PR into your marketing mix, particularly in the timeshare resort industry, this is going to be a B2B conversation, and I think you're going to learn something here from our conversation. So welcome to Georgi Bohrod Gordon, RRP, and I'm Sharon Scott Wilson, also RRP. Welcome, Georgi.
Thank you, Sharon. It's great to be here and good to see you as always.
Thank you. Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about our background, and you and I have known each other for probably more than 30 years. Tell us just a little bit about how you got involved and what you're doing right now.
I'd be glad to. Real quickly, I came into this profession of public relations through I actually studied this stuff way back in the day. It looked a lot different then, but I was a communications major at Northwestern. And then when I moved to California, I was doing some work in PR for the .com world. And at the time, I was working for a small boutique agency. And one day they came out and they said, by the way, we're going to close up shop. Here's 2 weeks pay. Good luck. So a friend of mine said, there's a timeshare being built in Carlsbad. It happened to be the Carlsbad Inn being built by Winter Circle and Jim Watkins, who's still with us. He's one of the great founders of this industry, one that really made it a family-oriented niche in the hospitality industry. And so they were looking for a marketing gal. I was a marketing gal, I thought, and I went to work for them. And then from then on in, I became very active in all the world of timesharing, ARDA, which was actually ALDA at the time, and then ARDA with 2 R's, and then finally became ARDA, A-R-D-A. And that may morph from what I understand at some point too. So my background is in communications. Originally, people would come to me just for press releases, but since then we've morphed into digital communication, website development, anything that is what I call the pretty pictures and words with a reason behind them. So that's what I've been doing for 30 some years for numerous clients. Most of them now are B2B, even though I've had quite a bit of experience in the B2C world too. Right.
Well, and as far as ARRDA, that's about the time I started. I was membership director at ARDA. And when I accepted a position with VRI and moved to the West Coast, married my previous husband, now deceased, sadly, you and I first became acquainted around Mission Viejo or around the San Diego area at any rate.
Actually, we met on a train ride. I mean, we had lunch. I came up on the train to San Clemente and you came down and we had lunch and we formed the basis of our relationship there. I'll never forget that.
Right. That was a fun day. Very, very interesting. So one thing we wanted to talk about today, as I said, I think I said, I'm the publisher of Resort Trades magazine. And of course, we have a large digital component now too, and do a lot of social media. So everything you do it feeds into how we help you express it. And so we appreciate your contributions very much. And I wanted to have you talk just a little bit about how you format things, because often I will receive these terribly self-promotional news releases about we're a great company and you should use us. But really, it's vapid, it's an advertisement, and I don't use those.
Well, first of all, I think that we have to talk sort of about the old school public relations to get going. But the most important part of communicating stories is to have news. In other words, something that is newsworthy, something that is new, it's fresh. And what you were referring to is sort of just a description that you might find on a website. What you want to be able to do is to give an editor or reporter new information, something that will benefit their readers and maybe even benefit them. So this is very important. I actually have a list of about 20 newsworthy items that you could use to generate stories. And if you want to reach out to Sharon or me, I can provide you with that list via email. I think it's very, very helpful. It ranges from things like the promotion of a new officer to the building of a new playground. All those things have newsworthy content. The way to go about crafting a press release, you can find all sorts of examples online, but it's very important that you have a attention-grabbing headline that says what your story is about. That first paragraph should have all the meat in it. Resort Trades has been sold to the New York Times for $1 gazillion.
From your lips to God's ears.
It should have.
Are you listening, New York Times?
Hello, New York Times. It's me, Sharon. So anyway, but it's very have the meat of the sentence, in the essence of the story right up top.
Right.
Now, this is different if that's for a press release. This is different if you're writing a blog or an article. That's something you're going to have to pitch to an editor. So I would say to Sharon, if I were writing a blog, Sharon, the most exciting thing has happened. Mobius Vendor Partners has a $1 billion contract with all the hospitals in the United States to do surveys. And she'll go, wow, $1 billion. That's important news. And from there, we develop the story or the blog. And the blog can have more nuances in it. It can have some personal feelings in it. The same with an article. This has a much more evergreen feeling. It's not hard-hitting news. It's more of an opinion piece. So that's something to remember in pitching a blog. Sometimes press releases look like blogs, and they're hard to format because they're not really about anything except the way your company is approaching new experiences, for instance. Mm-hmm. So you have your interesting lead, and if you're emailing a reporter or an editor, have that lead up front so they'll know what the basis of your story will be. Now we can see a lot of other ways to reach out to editors and reporters. I usually use email, even though they say they have a gazillion emails across their desk. I used to sometimes tweet them. I haven't X'd them yet, but to get their attention, sometimes I will use Twitter and say, be on the lookout for a story idea about new socks when you go to a timeshare playground. Something along those lines. So they'll be watching for the email. So just like any other kind of marketing, you're marketing to the reporters and editors, and a good marketing message usually touches them 3 or 4 times. So I'm just sharing, prepare them for them. And then you can also do a follow-up. I was really glad to be able to send you this story, and you don't have to say, have you published it yet, but just thank you for considering it. So there are those steps in approaching an editor. There's other services that are going to help you find out if you're going to the right people. There's organizations like Meltwater and Cision, and you can look up editors and reporters to see what they've written about, if they would be interested in receiving your story, and also the same with media outlets. So do some homework before you even send out that press release.
That's great advice, because sometimes I will get ads for special room discount. We're having an August blowout. Well, that's B2C. I'm B2B. Know your publication and their audience and what their interests are, because otherwise I will block you and you I won't see any more of your emails.
Sharon, however, if those folks would put a different twist on the story, and after their room blowout, they could send you a press release that says, room blowout breaks all records at Marriott vacation clubs, and X number of visitors over last year at this time. That
Yeah.
would be your B2B story. So you can take a B2C event and then transfer that into the success, that more of a case study sort of thing, more of a success story that you can use in a press release. So
Right.
don't throw it away completely, but just know who you're talking to.
And what your motivation is. If you're Marriott, what are you trying to express that you want other professionals in timeshare, or your investors? Wall Street reads us too, you know. What do you want them to know about your successful blowout? So,
That's right, Sharon, and you're right. Be very conscious of who your stakeholders are. They include the media, Wall Street, perhaps, even some consumers who are, who track their own resort and so forth, other vendors, so the industry itself. So think in terms of who your stakeholders are when you're writing your press release or even your blog.
that's right. So, and while you're writing, I think we talked a little bit about preparing content that's engaging. I know you described yourself as a nuts and bolts person, but you also have a keen understanding of how to engage reader interest through storytelling.
Yes, I have a really good example of that. I'm working with Mobius Vendor Partners, who has a new sharing and caring initiative on their website. And they have a lot of philanthropic endeavors in their DNA. So I could say something along these lines. I could say something like, Mobius Vendor Partners supports Lemon Juice's efforts to raise money for Ukrainian soldiers. Well, that's true, and that's good. But look at the difference between saying something like that, and then I'm going to quote directly from, I've edited it a little bit from Lemon Juice. Their Jan Barrow, who is their executive vice president, has written some wonderful words that you will discern as storytelling, not just nuts and bolts facts. So let me just read this to you because it's so well written. Lemon Juice Chief Executive Officer Alex Krakovsky of Ukraine holds profound personal significance. Born in Ukraine, he embarked on a journey that led him to the shores of the United States more than 4 decades ago, when his parents immigrated from Ukraine to America. The roots he planted in Ukraine were not forgotten when Lemon Juice Solutions took shape. Drawing on his previous business relationships, Alex established an office in Kyiv, a vital hub for operational, legal, and title research, and serving as the cornerstone of groundbreaking Resorts Imagine program. Now, that's how Jan wove in her tagline, but she didn't say, we've got the best Resorts Imagine in the world. Right. This is how it became to be. This Ukrainian outpost, home to a devoted team of 35 valued employees who offer support to Lemon Juice's 120 stateside employees. Now you're seeing the size of their company, but she's explaining why it's important. Several are from Lemon Juice's Ukrainian team have seen their homes reduced to rubble, while all their lives have been upended and their children displaced. They carry the great weight of unimaginable hardship, of an unprovoked war upon their shoulders. Of course, this is her political opinion, which I have to share. Lemon Juice Solutions stands with your Ukrainian colleagues and people of Ukraine. Their strength and courage inspire us, foregoing an unbreakable bond that transcends our borders. This is storytelling to the key. And then she goes on about how you can donate to this new website and how you can help folks in Ukraine. And then she ties it back into the why it is important to lemon juice to support them versus some other charity. So I just wanted to use that as an excellent example of storytelling. And if you're having trouble with storytelling, and later on we'll be talking about this, but this is what some professional folks can help you with and get some good stories out of you. You probably have the stories lurking in your heart. You just haven't had them expanded upon.
Right. Now, I know at one point you and I had talked about using Chat GPT, certainly not to be overly dependent on this new application, but it's a good idea, stimulator. I think we decided. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm actually pretty bullish on Chat GPT. But first of all, GPT is an acronym meaning Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. And it can create new content and audio, video, images, even code. There's one for art creation. And then we've seen all the memes on social media about deep fake voice replication. Like this might not even be me and Sharon. We might be totally AI. You don't know that.
I'd do a better job on my delivery if that was so.
So there are other ones that you can get your stock photos from. You can create Amazon listings. You can tell them, if you have to format something for Amazon. There's lots of things that Chat GPT does. However, and so one of the things it does, and I wanted to share this with you, and I will also share this with you by email if you'd like to. I thought it'd be kind of fun to ask Chat GPT, what are the pros and cons of using AI material? And wouldn't you know, he, she, it, they came back to me with these particular bullet points. It can be efficient in time saving. They are scalable and available, so you can get more information or less information in a very quick amount of time. I ran this test, and all the information that I'm sharing with you came up within 30 seconds. This is something we as communicators used to do a lot of online, researching communications and definitions and putting that into the body of the text that we're doing. Chat GPT does it right away, but you have to make sure that you monitor it. It'll give you strong data-driven insights, which is very exciting, so that you can support what your various points are. So you don't have to be researching how many people visited Kroger's after the promotion on the milk. That'll be within the body. If you want to know that, you can just make a little note, and the AI will let you know that. It can give you content ideation and creation. So I've asked AI to do things, and then you have to take it and re-edit it again. But the basic facts and formatting are already there, which is a great advantage if you've got a lot of things going. And it also gives you some social insights, how people are, their sentiments, how they're reacting to things. So that will also be within the content that you generate if you ask for it. Remember, as we've always said, I want to say garbage in, garbage out, but whatever you're asking Chat GPT, make sure it's specific enough so they can come back with some good answers. Of course, there's some cons. It doesn't sound very human. As you know, this is what the writers are complaining about and fighting against in Hollywood. So you have to really work with it to make it sound more human. Eventually it will, probably it'll learn how to do that. You have to be very careful about copyright because it just pulls information. It doesn't really research it to that degree. It just says this is gospel because it was on the World Wide Web. So you have to make sure that you're not infringing on any copyright problems.
Yeah, interestingly, I was watching a YouTube video the other day where the expert was saying that there's apps that will measure the amount of AI content in a written document. And Google, for instance, and others, they will say, okay, if it's over 60% AI generated, they won't give it a good rating. And also there are other apps for whether it's original content or not.
A lot of teachers used to use something that was a little more clunky, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when their kids turned in book reports or papers. And I've been known to, I have to tell you that when I was very young, my parents had an Encyclopedia Britannica, big, thick encyclopedias. We don't have those anymore. But of course, it was written in British spelling. And I had a book report to do on the I. I'll never forget this. I was like in the 5th grade. And I wrote it verbatim from the Encyclopedia Britannica as a 5th grader, and also had all these British spellings. And so I was a good student, as I'm sure you were. I mean, I love to have the teacher's pats on my back. And the teacher called me up and said, Georgie, did you write this? And I said, yes, because I had physically written. It just doesn't sound like you. So this was
gentle.
Yeah, that was gentle, and I was a cheater. But anyway, this is something that some of these apps do now in education, because kids, lift stuff right off of the AI and turn it in as their reports. So that's something else that speaks to, you can't be overly reliant on AI. You still have to use your innate human skills, and you have to take into consider ethics. Going back to, spelling words like neighborhood, O-U-R, that's not too ethical if you're just copying it out of an AI generated piece. And finally, and this is very important for all of us, there's a learning curve in getting how to integrate AI and chat into the work that you're doing. And it does take practice like any other kind of computer program. So just so that you know how AI approached this, I just want to read their final paragraph, which is very good, but it sounds a little bit RDT2. In the summary, Chat AI, particularly Chat GPT, offers numerous benefits for public relations professionals, including increased efficiency, scalability, data-driven insights. However, it also presents challenges related to maintaining human touch, copyright and brand tone, over-reliance, ethical considerations, and the need for proper training and understanding. PR practitioners should carefully assess the pros and cons and strike a balance between leveraging AI technology and human expertise to achieve the best results in their communication strategies. This is from an AI app. So as you can see, there's a lot of meat in there that you can work with.
Right. Well, next, I think
you and Sharon, you know what I was thinking? I hate to interrupt you, but this might be a really good time. I use Sharon's publication almost exclusively. Back in the day, there were numerous timeshare publications, but we don't have that now. We have one that's basically devoted to timeshare boards and owners, and then Sharon's publication, The Resort Trades, focuses on resorts, managers, resort professionals, and they have a true B2B publication. And I think this might be a good time for you to share a little bit about that, Sharon.
Oh, thank you. Not only managers, but also who make decisions on what they're going to use at their resorts, or the number of beds they're going to buy, or whatever. But also marketing and salespeople are huge readers and supporters, and we really appreciate that. We have a full range of on and offline media, and we're very active, particularly in LinkedIn. And our audience is resort, and also a lot of hoteliers that don't necessarily have an interest in timeshare, but they buy linens and they hire housekeeping services, and they're interested as well. And also we go free to every timeshare resort in the U.S. as much as we can keep up with, as well as various professionals we've met over the years as they attend ARDA get-togethers. And so we're absolutely just advertising supported. So we welcome people to sign up for our online weekly e-newsletter, or to go ahead and ask for a copy of our monthly print publication too. So thank you for my little advertisement time. So,
You deserve the advertisement time.
oh, thank you.
One thing that Resort Trades does, it's an excellent example of the different ways you can communicate the same story. They have it in print. They send it out in a digital newsletter. You could do this too. You can send yours out in a newsletter as well. They do it on social media, LinkedIn particularly. So they too have, and then they have a directory, which is an online situation. So if you look at the Resort Trades site, you might get some ideas of how you can increase the coverage of your own story.
Well, thank you, Georgie. That's brilliantly said.
You can pay me later. I think there's some tips that would really help anybody who wants to do some publicity, public relations, promotions in written form for your product, your resort, destination, whatever it may be. First of all, it's really important, unless you write for the New York Times, and if you read the New York Times, all you have to do is pick up the first article, and I have to have a dictionary with me from the very beginning. They just pride themselves on using what my mother used to call 50-cent words. Now they're probably $5 words, but big long words that you don't even know what they mean. So unless you write for the New York Times, keep those at a minimal. Everybody knows you're smart. You don't have to do that. Use shorter sentences. Kind of aim at a 5th or 6th grade level. That's where most of the reading public is. And even if they are way above that and esoteric, for a quick read, that's where most of us like to live, at 5th or 6th grade level. An average press release should be no longer than 500 words. But, you know, if it turns out to be 300 words, you're not going to go to jail. Nobody's going to say, add on some fluff here to make your press release longer. The reason 500 words seemed to be the sweet spot, if you get an old-fashioned piece of paper, remember those pieces of paper, an 8.5 by 11, one of those single space was 500 words, and that's how people came to that number for a press release. So that's the first thing to remember. And the other thing is, in writing the sentences themselves, you know, keep jargon out of it. If you're going to say VPG, tell people what VPG means. Not everybody knows, you know, it means volume per guest. And even people that know it's volume per guest probably don't remember that that's why it's called that. So make sure you don't use a lot of jargon or complicated language. Keep your sentences short, your paragraph shorter, and to the point. And I think that will help enhance your readability and the reader's comprehension of what you're saying, and help them have them remember better.
That's a good point. Well, I guess people are proud of their grasp on vocabulary, but this is not the occasion to show off. You're trying to make a point.
Exactly. So I think the other thing that we also want to make sure, in addition to simplifying your jargon and so forth, is how do you make sure that the right people are reading your content? Do you have any thoughts on that, Sharon? I'm doing all the talking here in this conversation.
Well, that's of course, how you find, we feel like if you're trying to reach the business professional in the resort world, use Resort Trades. If you're starting out new in the industry, maybe you need to do a little research. Use your Google alerts search yourself on Google, ask GPT, Chat GPT. What do you think?
Well, I think that tracking various sources, get to know some reporters. It's really great because I know that Sharon's publication so well, so I know the kinds of material that she's looking for. And I have some other publications that I'm well aware of what their niches are, and I slant the material that way. But there are ways you can research. They're kind of pricey, some of them. Meltwater is one, Cision's another, but you can look up reporters, you can look up niches, you can see who's writing about what, so that you can approach them in a very targeted way, rather than a rifle approach, sending a press release to 1,000 different reporters, and none of them is really in that business. They just are on your list for some reason, and your press release is not pointed toward them in any way, and that just goes in the, well, we don't have a circular file in the email, but it goes in the trash, so you don't want that to happen.
That's right. That's a very amateurish approach, I've found. Usually it's the interns and the people that are just fresh out of J school or communications school, and they think, well, if I hit the audience with a bunch of spaghetti on the wall, we'll see what sticks. And I think that might do more harm than good. I don't know, but
yeah, I think it certainly does harm later on with some of those reporters. If you wanted to talk to them specifically, they wouldn't pay attention to you because the last time it did not fit their needs.
right.
So I think that's something to remember. And then I think one thing, going back to Sharon's publication and to other publications, into your own work, that there is, in addition to the content that you're producing, it's also in the distribution of it. And once a press release has become live, let's say Resort Trades has published it, what I like to do is to take that link and socialize it. I put it on LinkedIn. I haven't tried Threads, but I think I probably should soon. I used to tweet it, and we'll see what X does with it. When you watch this, if you're watching it a couple weeks hence, you'll know that this has all been big news in the last 2 weeks here with the changes from Twitter to Threads and all that. So you can also send it out within one of your own newsletters. Resort Trades does this. They send it out in their newsletter frequently if it's a good enough story. But and they can do that, and you can do that. So when I send something out for MVP Attacks Company, for instance, that will be in their newsletter. Look, we were published in the Atlantic Monthly. So, and here's the story as it came out. ARDA just did this with a story that ran, I believe, in Forbes. That they socialized it all over the world, all over the media, about the benefits of time sharing, which got some very good press. So if you look and see what some of the savvy PR people are doing, PR-oriented companies like ARDA, like Resort Trades, and like some of the brands, and even some of the smaller brands, you'll be able to see the ways that they utilize the content that they've produced.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to mention, or I think you had mentioned earlier that you'd be happy to share various lists of items that you have available. And again, we'll put your content information, but maybe you'd like to repeat what that was.
Sure. Sharon's going to put my contact information in the show notes. That's what they say on podcasts, I think. So I have a list of newsworthy ideas, particularly oriented to timeshare vendors, even developers, anybody involved in the timeshare world, hospitality world. I've got a list of about 20 newsworthy ideas that might spark your imagination. Also, I thought it would be interesting for you to see what Chat GPT generated about the pros and cons of using itself, using AI. So those are two things that I would be glad to share. And also, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have, as I'm sure Sharon would as well.
Well, I certainly appreciate how much you've been able to share today about. I think we went into a lot of depth and tapped a lot into your knowledge and experience. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And we also appreciate people that are tuning in on YouTube. Please remember to like, add your comments, and subscribe to this channel, to Resort Trade's YouTube channel, and go online to our website, that's resorttrade.com. Go to /e-magazine, I think it's called, and you can sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me, Sharon.
You're welcome.